So yesterday we were talking about the exception handling, right? So that's an important module of this Blue Prism. Please go through that. I have not uploaded that PDF and all. There is another PDF specially for exception handling, so I'll put it out there. Also, as I said in the Blue Prism portal, there are a few good resources for practicing. Go ahead and practice those as well. Okay. And
so I went to the Blue Prism portal yesterday, but I couldn't find what resources you were talking about.
Okay. Let me just tell you. It's not resources. Actually, these are like questions. Like what sort of questions you will face in the certification or standard question. I'm not sure about the password. Wait 1 second. Okay, so I guess I have. I don't know. Actually, I have forgotten the password, I guess. So I will show you sometime. Otherwise. Okay. So basically, if you go to the LMS section, there will be something called LMS in Blue Prism. There, if you go, there will be different learning path, and there will be something called, I guess, Blue Prism Developer Certification. There, if you go, there will be around 5 modules: one for exception handling, one for work queue, and one with developer best practices. Then life cycle orientation and something else. Okay, there will be 5 modules. So out of that, one is this one. If any one of you have logged in, then I could have shown. Otherwise, that's fine. I'll show some other time.
So when I'm trying to access that LMS, it says no access.
No access.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait.
Because until you have a company or you're a training partner.
No. Not needed. Okay. That is not the case. It was there before 6 or 7 months, but now they have opened to everyone. So obviously you will not be access to a few of the stuffs. Like you cannot download the latest version of the software. You cannot download the updates because that is something available to companies. Okay, the download section, the product section. But the learning one is available to everyone. Anyway, I'll just show you that sometime because I'm not sure what my password is. Okay, so
Mahesh says he has an account.
Yeah, I have account. So yes, so if you can, what is that path, Mahesh? If you are aware of that path after LMS, if you can, tell everyone here because I'm not able to log into that right now. Anyway, otherwise, sorry.
It's under LMS only.
It's under LMS only, right? Yeah. So you have to go to LMS. So if you're not able to log into LMS, I'm not sure what is happening because everyone should be able to. That is a publicly available module. So check your access or something if you have verified your email like that. It is accessible to everyone, the LMS section, even if you are registering with a Gmail, Yahoo, or any ID. Okay?
Okay, let me try some other email address and then let's see, because I didn't put the company's name. I input it as NA. So probably
yeah, ma'am, put any company name. Wherever you're not working, also put any company name. Okay, but what I would recommend is that if you are planning to write for the certification, then you should put all the correct data, because the Blue Prism account is linked with that Pearson VUE account. You have to link that account by providing the ID in Pearson VUE. So if you are planning to write for the certification, then please put the same all the like right credential and data. Otherwise, if it is not, then in future also you can create another account and then you can link with Pearson VUE. Pearson VUE is the provider of that vouchers they sell for this training, the certification. So here normally you have to schedule an exam. So you have to link the Blue Prism portal and this one with the ID. Okay. Anyway, so okay. Let's talk about that. Before moving to this, work queue, I thought of. So, have I discussed about this control room? I just talked briefly about the control room, right? I'm not sure if I got much time about the control room. So, let me just cover about the control room a little bit, more, okay? Because this is an important section. Then we'll move to the that work queue part. So previously I have discussed a little bit about control room, how we can drag and drop the process and it will start working on the server, right? So that is absolutely fine. That we can just publish any process from here, from the Studio tab. We need to publish any process. So any process that we have been working currently. So for this example, this one, open that, then double click on the web process, whatever is your information box, this box, double click on that and click this button, publish this process to control room. Okay. Once you do this, let me save a replica of this. So if you want to publish this, just double click on this and publish this process to control room and click OK. Okay, that's it. You will get this symbol here and then you can save it. So normally it takes some time for there to be reflected and you can. So this is the one. Okay, this is the one that you can run. So
Prem, you're recording this, right?
Yeah, I'm recording this.
Because I didn't hear the message recording has started.
No, actually I recorded before you joined, I guess.
Okay.
So you can drag and drop and you can start running here. Okay, that is something we have discussed. You can drag and drop and start running on the server. Now the thing is how to schedule this. Let's talk about the scheduler today, how to schedule this. So it's a very small part. We can schedule this. So it is not that if, for example, on Sunday night I have to run something, it doesn't mean that I have to come to office and Sunday night just to click and drag and drop it to the server. That doesn't make any sense, right? So we have scheduler in place for the Blue Prism and we can schedule any of the processes to run at any particular time in the server. So that is something you will be doing on the scheduler, the scheduling part. Okay. Today we are going to discuss about active queues and queue management, but this part is remain after that. Okay, scheduler. So how to schedule? You have to go to scheduler and then go to schedule and right click, create a new schedule, and let's name the schedule as running web module or something. Okay, running web module. And what time you want to run this? So for example, let's run it on Monday. So select 30, the date from here, and whatever time you want to run. So normally if you want to run at whatever time. So for example, 20 at 8 o'clock, 20:30 for example. So 8:30, if you want to run this, then just select the date and time from here, and after that go to this new schedule. Okay, this is the time and date that you mentioned. Okay, when you want, so daily once or weekly, and anything you can mention. So if you start weekly, then again, you can mention starting from which week, every 1 week or every 2 week, all of that stuff, monthly, hourly, everything you can select. Okay, so let's run it once only at this particular time. Once you do that, once you set your time and everything, you can go to your there is a sub module here under whatever name you have provided, running web module. There is a sub module called new schedule 3 here. Okay, you can rename that to uh, whatever. Okay, XE job that you are running, xe.com job you are running, right? So you can rename that, and that will be available here also, initial task, whatever you rename. And this job you can just drag and drop whatever you want to run. So for example, I want to run this one, right? So drag and drop it here, and it will come here. Web process 911 schedule session. It is scheduled on to be run on this machine. What time it is scheduled, that is we have already seen, and you have to apply the changes. You have to apply changes for this to be run at that, this to be saved at that particular time. Okay, apply changes here. So it will run at that particular time. So if you are running with your local machine, make sure that your computer is up and running. Otherwise, it will not run at all. If it is a server, normally servers will be running 24/7. So you don't have to worry about what will happen and all. One thing, let me just tell you. Okay, so it came under here in the where is that? Okay, it started showing under the calendar. So if you go to timetable, all your scheduled job will start showing whenever you have scheduled that. So I have scheduled on 30 July Monday at 8:30 p.m. in the evening. So that is the reason it is showing in a calendar view like this. Okay. This is the way you can like schedule it. You could click that, it will come here. Okay, that is the way you can schedule a job to run and anywhere also, anytime. You got the point here? Any doubts here? Okay then. So this is the way you can schedule any job to run at any particular time in the control room and everything. This is the way actually in real time people like run their job. Instead of going to the studio tab or opening that and running it from here, you can choose to run it from there. So normally there will be a separate team to do all this also. There will be a separate team to run this process and object. And if you are a developer or a little bit less experience, normally you won't be having access to this control tab only. Okay, your access will be restricted. If it is a small project, then you will be having access to all the tabs, and you only have to do all the functionality, whatever you are developing, then running and everything. If it is a large client project, you won't be having access to the control room. So normally what you will do is that you will be creating the solution. Mostly, client also choose to deploy by themselves. So if that is the case, then you create the solution, the working solution. You test it here, and after that, you create a new release. We'll see how to create a new release. Basically, you create a new package and you send that package to the client so that client can deploy themselves. So maybe if it is an agile way, then maybe you have a release every 15 days. Then every 15 days you have to send that new release file, updated release file to the client, and the client will deploy from their side. So that is the way it is done. Now that's all about the control room. One more thing I can talk about is So wait. There is something called taking input from the user. Okay, let's see that. But the problem is that that was not working fine. I'm not sure why, due to this licensing or something. But just let me tell you how to take the user input also. Okay, Gitika was also asking about that, like how to take the user input when a bot runs. So let me talk about that, how that happens. But the last time I ran this in another batch that was not working fine. Not sure, what happens due to licensing or something. But the way to do that, I'll tell you. For example, let's create a new process just for the sake of testing to take user input. And this is something that you will use only when, it is absolutely dynamic. Okay. So what happens is, for example, if you are taking any very dynamic value, so there is a project, for example, and every time the IP address changes, and before you run the process, you need to define the dynamic IP address. For example, let's just get a calculation stage here, and store a data item. So for example, this process receives a dynamic IP address every time it runs. Okay, and then that IP address, the admin, who is running this process has only access to that IP address. Okay, so how shall we go about passing a dynamic IP address every time this process runs? Okay, how shall we do that? We cannot come here to this process, and we cannot do, we cannot change the data item every time, right? We cannot come here and change the data item every time. That will not be a good use case. So let's try to receive, IP address or any dynamic value every time this process runs. So for example, uh, so the first thing is that where shall we receive anything? We have seen that, when we exchange data between the process and object, or between two process, we are always using the started end state. But if we set an input here in this start stage, from where it will take the value from, this is the main page, right? This is the starting point of the program. If I expect that this program itself will receive an input, then from where it will receive, it will receive from the control room, because this is the starting point of the program. So for example, if I configure something here, so start, and let's say IP address, and then data type is text, for example, and store it in the IP address. Close calculation, let's take a text function and let's concatenate something, and let's write, for example, IP address is operand B. Let's put IP address, and let's do this and store it that in this data item. Final IP, then text. Okay, this is the case, for example, and reset and save this. Now, if this program is supposed to receive a dynamic IP, and if I double click and let's publish this one, click OK here, and then save. And let me close this for now. Or minimize this. Let me close this. Okay, this is the program that is receiving the IP address. Now let's go to the control room, and now let's run that particular program. So was that take user input? What was the name? Yeah, so that is available here for running. Now if I choose to run this, just click here, drag and drop. Okay, it started coming here. Now right click and let's start this. If you start this, it is it is asking for inputs. Okay, it is asking for startup parameters. So these are called startup parameters, where you define what are the different variables, what are the different data that you need before starting up. So we have defined in the process that we need only the IP address. You remember, this is the one we need. So whatever you provide here, that will go directly to the process. So the advantage here is, even if you are not available, so you have developed the process and you have maybe deployed it somewhere. So the something which is very sensitive, for example, IP address is a very sensitive information, and the admin does not want to, for example, pass that information to you. So you do not have any knowledge of the IP address now. You just developed the process and you left it. Now whatever IP address the admin will enter here, the admin will know that only. That will be dynamically processed in your solution, whatever you have designed, and it will be processed. Okay. So double click. Okay, not double click. You have to start it. Either right click and start, or select and start selection, and enter anywhere whatever you want. 10.12.190. Okay, and then you can save it, and then start. Oh, okay. Sorry, you have to start it instead of saving. You have to start it. Okay, it got completed. So this is the way you have to pass the startup parameter to a process. So if anything dynamic is there, and if it is very sensitive in nature, and the managers or the admin in the team, they do not want the developer to have that information. So you cannot, take those information from a data item, or it may happen that you have to do some user ID and password, for example. Instead of this, you may take some user ID and password. So that information also will not be available to the developers. So those are also can be configured in startup parameters. These are called startup parameters, and the username and password, and based on that you are doing some processing. Okay, the chart may not work at that particular time, but whenever it is done from the control room, it will work, because the username and password will be provided correctly in the control room. Okay, you understood this concept, how to take the startup parameters and how to run it in the control room, how to schedule a job, everything. Okay. So these are also important in terms of a admin perspective and all. So let's close this for now, and let's move to whatever we were doing before. So any doubts there, guys? If no doubt, then we'll just continue. Okay. So till now, what we have been doing is the exception handling. Okay, so we'll from now we'll see the work queue. There is a concept called work queue, and let me just talk about the functionality of work queue. So it's a queue service. So normally in most of the programming languages, there is something called queue. There is a queue concept, and what the queue does is it will take all the requests in a queue. So the queue looks like this. If this is a queue, this is the work queue that we are working upon, and this is the queue. Okay, this is like whatever size you define for the queue initially, that will be the queue size. So 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever this is, 10 or 15, 11 something. So queue is basically the the first person who comes in will be the first to go out. So first in, first out. Okay. So for example, if you are in a queue of like in a movie hall, so the first person who goes in is the first person who goes out also, right? So this is called FIFO, first in, first out. Okay, so we'll follow the same one here. So what we'll do is that into the work queue, we'll push all the Excel sheet data. So all the Excel sheet data that we have been working in that web example, right, that we are taking to the web automation. So I'll push everything to the queue. So the first row of the Excel sheet will be pushed here, and then this will come here. Okay, and here the second row. Now if I'm pushing another one, first will come here, second will come here, and then third will come here, and this will be the first one to be executed. This is the second one to be executed, and third one to be executed. This is like that only. Okay, so first in, first out. So the advantage of this is, instead of directly doing that, if we choose to do that, first thing is that there you'll get a lot of performance improvement. Okay, because queues are normally very fast, and you will get a lot of performance enhancement. Apart from that, you have a greater level of control. So for example, I have the Excel sheet, for example, 1,000 records. What if I do not want to, access them serially, 1, 2, 3, 4? I do not want them. I want to set a priority for few of the columns, for example, few of the rows, sorry. For example, whenever I saw that the from currency or to currency is USD, I want to execute them first. How can I do that in the Excel sheet? I cannot do that. I do not have that control if I am taking data directly from the Excel sheet. So those priority and all we can set here in the work queue. Okay. Apart from that, there are a lot of other benefits as well. For example, we can filter a lot of data. Okay, we can filter out a lot of data. And so for example, if I want to filter out that if the currency is USD or AUD or something else, then only do this and all of that stuff. We can filter out a lot of data. And it's a very huge concept, the work queue, and it is the most important concept in work queue, and it will take a significant amount of time for this to be completed. Okay, so let's see this. Also, we can mark each of the individual data as completed or exception. So I guess Mahesh was asking yesterday, what shall we do about the rows where we get only exception? So I have, for example, 100 rows, and I have 2 exception in between. If we go about in the normal process, maybe we will not be able to identify correctly which records are like got exception, and we may not be able to skip those and go to the next one. So all of that is possible in the work queue, and we'll see that how all of that happens. Okay, so we are going to implement work queue in this example only, but before that we need to create the work queue. Okay, so we need to create the work queue. So I'm just closing this, and let me show you where we can create the work queue. To create the work queue, you have to go to the system tab here, and go to work queue. Under workflow, you will get something called work queue. Okay, there will be creating a new work queue. Click on new. Okay, so okay, Q1. Normally when we create a new work queue, the name becomes Q1 only. These are okay. Okay, Q1. This got created, and let's name this. Let's provide a new name to this. For example, June Q. Okay, and then we'll see about the other fields here: key name, maximum attempts, and status, and everything. We'll see about that. For now, let's create the June queue. And the first step, what we'll be doing is that get data to the queue. Okay. So initially, we need to get the data to the queue so that we can pick it from there and we can start processing it. Okay. So first step 1 is getting the data to the queue. That's a very important step. Okay. So now apply for the changes to be applied. So this June queue got created here. Okay, this got created. Okay. Now let's go back to the control room. Sorry, the studio tab, to our process. This one. Okay, so I have created a replica of this process. So what I will do is that till today, like before work queue, whatever we have discussed, this workflow, I will provide you. I will send you in the. I will provide this in the that Google Drive, so you can import and learn the exception handling in this part. And after that, I'm going to make some significant changes to this workflow. The loop stage and everything I'm going to remove due to the work queue. So now this workflow is going to be changed completely. So I'll put that process and that object, whatever we have, till now discussed in a Google Drive, and you can get that and import it. So now, now that the work queue is, completed, now that we have created the work queue, now what we'll do, we'll try to get all the data to the work queue. So now we were picking up data from the Excel sheet, right? So the first step will be to get all the data to the work queue from the collection, whatever collection we are getting in the getting from the Excel sheet. After that, we will read those data back. So what I will do is that I'll just remove this because we are not will not take that from the collection now. This collection that we are taking, the currency collection, we are no more going to loop through the collection. Okay, we are no more going to loop through the collection. Instead of the collection, what we are going to do is that we are going to write all of the data to the work queue, and from the work queue only we are going to pick the data. So now in this scenario, we are taking all the data from the collection and processing it. We are not going to do that anymore. Okay. So what I will do is that I will just remove this part. I'll just remove this loop start. So if you remove loop start, it will basically remove both loop start and loop end. Okay. And let me just move few of the data item to here and there. So let's move it here. And now this page will receive data from the this also will move a little bit this side. This also will receive data from the work queue only. This page will receive data from work queue. So we need to add data to the queue. The first thing is we are going to add data to the queue, and from there we'll start picking. How to add data to the queue? We are going to use an action stage for that. Drag and drop an action stage, and then double click on work queue. There will be somewhere called work queue. Okay, this is an internal business object. Work queue is an internal business object, so click on that, and then the first one is add to queue. So we are going to, as I said, we are going to add data to the queue, right? So we are going to add data from the collection to the queue, and from the queue only we are going to start picking up all the data. So what is the name of our queue? It was June queue, I guess, right? It was June queue. So make sure this name is exactly same. If possible, go and copy paste from there. Otherwise, it will not work. So how in Blue Prism, it is based on names for mostly. So make sure that whatever names you provide, those are same. In future, we are going to talk about environment locking also, and there also the name of the lock has to be same here and in the system tab. So make sure these names are exactly same as whatever you have defined in the system tab. Now the second thing is that once we define the queue, then we are going to get all the data from the queue. So for now, let's a collection containing the data, one row for each data item. So let's ignore all of this now. Okay, we'll talk about differential, priority, and everything. They are very good features. I was talking about priority, right? How to set priority for each of the row. Okay, based on the value. Then how to defer to a particular Excel sheet row. So we can do that. Out of 100 records, we can choose to run few records later also. Out of 100 records, like 90 records I want to run now, and 10 records I want to run in the US time zone. I can choose to do that also. Okay, and we'll also talk about tags and status, how it helps for filtering. It has a better level of filtering based on the tag, like Instagram tags and everything you have, right, where you filter based on the image, the tags that people tag, like scenic beauty or something like that. That way will provide some new tags and will filter through tags and all. Okay, it is going to be a very good features and all. For now, let's try to only add data to the queue. Add to queue. And yeah, so from which collection we will take the data? A collection containing the data, one row for each item to be added. Okay, so this is the collection from where the queue will take the data, and this is the item ID collection which have been added to the queue in order for the collection. Okay, this collection will contain all the item ID. Okay, item ID of all the rows that are there. Okay, so we'll talk about item ID. Everything we'll talk about first. Let's talk about this one only. So let's take the currency collection here, because we are going to read the all the data that we have generated from the Excel sheet is present in the currency collection. So we are going to use that. So now let's try to use the currency collection for now. If we mention this, it means that all the data from the currency collection will go and will be written to this queue. Okay, so let's keep this as blank. Now we can keep this as blank if you want to. Okay, just to test if everything is working or not, just to test if we are getting the data to the queue. Let's test that. And let me just move to this page. Again, this page is not needed. This step will do whatever we are looking at. This is not needed, but we need somewhere to stop, right? So this process will go here and it will stop here. So I'll get some error like missing link or something. Here there is no link, but that is absolutely fine. Let's run this now. Okay, let it execute. Okay, it completed execution. Okay, so failed to find the next. So this is the obvious error because we don't have the next link. Now let's go to the queue now. So where to get the queue? We have created the queue in the system tab here in the work queue part, but where can we check that if the queue has this Joule queue have all the records or not? So to check that, you have to go under control room and you have the Joule queue here. And you can see here all the 4 records are added here. And if you remember in our Excel sheet there were only 4 records. Okay, so it was created on this date and everything. So I'll talk about each of this column now. What are these columns? And just to make you understand, these 4 rows, these are coming from the collection. Whatever we did here, right? Oh. Whatever we did here. This is the same stuff like populating the collection in get worksheet edge collection. Now launch that. Now add to the queue. This part is doing the addition to the queue. The 4 rows that got added to the queue, it got picked up from this currency collection. So currency collection has 4 rows. All these 4 rows are picked up. So we should have ideally deleted this data. I have not deleted this yet, so I'll delete this. Anyway, so from there it is getting picked up. So what are these rows that we have here? What are the different columns that we have here? So it has a lot of columns. This is the work queue that will look like, and it is under running status. The first column that you have, it will give you the status as there are three kinds of status. One is pending, and then you will get completed or exception. So the status, that column, the first column that you are looking at, the status column, either you will get the value as pending. So initially when it does not run, it has not run yet, right? It has not run yet. So all the queue are in pending status. Once it runs, either it will be completed or it will be exception. So there are three status: pending, completed, and exception. So if it is executed successfully, then it will be completed. So if there is no error in that, then it will be completed. But if there is any error, then it will flag as an exception. So remember this, there are three status in the work queue for each of the case. So again, each of this is called one case. Okay, the name is called case, CASE. So we are executing multiple cases here. So each of the case that we have here, case 1, case 2, and all the cases that we have, they will be either in pending status, completed, or exception. We'll again talk about if exception happens, how to skip that and go to the next record. Okay. So before that, let me just delete this link because I need to do some more processing. Now after adding to the queue, what is the next step? Okay. Okay, let's complete all the columns first, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, as this is the status column, you can call this as status. I won't call it status because we already have something called status. Okay, this doesn't have any name. Just understand that it provides a status of your work queue, and the three kind of status: pending, and completed, and work queue. Okay. I will call this as state, for example, okay, not the status, because we already have a status here, and we'll see what this status is. And then we have something called item key here. Item key is like now if you see all this four, you don't have any like control over which row is which one. From here, by looking at this, are you able to know that which row here corresponds to which row in the Excel sheet? No, right? Like we have 4 rows in the Excel sheet, and now which row here, like second row here, corresponds to which row here? We do not have that information. So we'll be using the item key to understand that. We'll be using the item key to know which row is which one, so that when it fails or when it succeeds or someone is taking long time, we'll be able to understand that which field it is taking time or which field it failed. So for example, row number 2 fail or row number 3 fail, we'll be able to know. But for as of now, let's ignore this. This is something we'll talk about later. Just understand what this column is for. Priority is we'll talk about priority. We'll see examples of priority where it will show if you want to run something as a priority. For example, if USD is though it is at the second after AUD, I want to run USD first and then AUD and all. So I can set a priority. I can set priority 1 for USD and low priority, like priority 2 for AUD, and rest of the items in the my Excel sheet, I want to set a priority 3 or 4, something like that. So we can do all of that stuff. So now the priority is 0 for all. It means everyone has the same priority, and if everyone has the same priority, they will be processed the way they came to the queue. So the first in, first out will happen. So the first who came to the queue will be executed first. It all have the same priority. Now status and text we have not talked about. We'll see how we can we will be filtering at an advanced level using all of this. We'll see this. Then so text and all you will see here, right? Here you have everything: text and status, priority, text, status. We'll look into this. And we have the resource, on which resource it is running on. It will show here. Now the attempt. So one very good thing about this work queue is that, for example, you got an exception here, and it did not like completed as it should. Okay, so do you want to reattempt this particular row only? For example, it is failing. It is failing due to some reason. For example, USDD is not there. Okay, and it is failing due to that. And do you want to retry for this to if just to check that there is a chance that now it got corrected or not? So that purpose will be using attempt. So we can make multiple attempts automatically for failed row. So for example, if this row is failing for execution, I can try after 1 minute just to check that if everything is all right now. If again it is failing, I can check again after 1 minute or some in the next iteration that it is working properly or not. Again, if it is not working fine, then I will permanently mark that as an exception. So I can specify the number of attempts I can do for any row. So for example, if anything is failing, try for 3 times. If there's a chance of success. Even if it is after trying 3 times, if it is not succeeding, then only mark it as exception. Otherwise, try again and again. Okay, so that is where we'll be using the attempt column. And again, we have the created, last updated. These are the obvious one. The date and time when 9:50 we added this. Okay, and last updated also it shows here. Next review is, for example, it is related to the attempt one. So for example, something is failing. This row is failing, for example. Okay, and we don't care, and we are just we're planning to go to the next one. Okay, if it is failing. But if we want to retry this, if you want to reattempt for success, then what will happen? This column will be populated. Do we have a next review for that? Yes, we can review it once again. Okay, if again it is failing, we can review it once again. 3 times we can review it, or 4 times, whatever you specify. And then also if it is failing, we can finally mark them as exception. And if it is completed, that will completed the date and time will come here, and total work time is how much time it took for that particular work queue to be processed. That will come here. If any exception is there, exception date will come here. So this is the completed date and time, exception date and time, it will come here, and exception reason. So what was the reason that it failed? Any particular row, this row why it failed, this row why it failed. If there is multiple failures, then everything will be populated with that exception reason. Okay, so any doubts in these columns? Like which column does what? You're able to understand, right? Okay, fine. So let's see the example of this one, and slowly we'll complete all of this. So here, what I will do is that now that I have added to the queue, all this data are added to the queue. Now that all this data are added to the queue, what we should do is that we should start picking up this data for processing, right? Because we are no more, taking the data from the collection directly. So we have to start picking up the data from the work queue only. Okay, so how to pick up the data? We are going to get every item from there. So how to get the item? Drag and drop on action stage here, and double click, select work queue, and from here select get next item. Get next item will give you the will take the next item automatically from the work queue. Okay, it gets the next item and start processing. So first one, adding to the queue. Step 1 is adding to the queue. Step 2 is picking up from the queue.
So Prem, how do we check what data got populated into the queue? Can you just go and show me that once?
Yeah. Pick up data from the queue. Here you are telling?
Yeah, what data is stored inside the queue? So now you've got the data from the worksheet, right? So where, how do you know what you've stored?
That is something you won't see. So for example, this 1550 AUD, that is something you will not see it here. You'll not see those data in the work queue. Work queue is just a logical representation of all of your rows. Those are not actual representation of that. Once it comes to the when you do get next item, that time only you get that and you start processing that. You won't be able to see any data there.
Okay.
Get next item. Okay. So here we'll take the same queue name. So the queue name is going to be required, throughout the operation. So June queue, and in the output, so each of the item that we have, we are going to assign some item ID to that unique item ID, system generated item ID, so that we'll be able to identify that yes, so something is present there. So if item ID is populated, it means that Blue Prism has picked up some data. And if item ID is blank, just understand that there is no rows to be populated. So here item ID will be generated 4 times. Okay, four times for the 4 rows, and for the 5th row it will be blank only because there is no data there. Okay, and this one is the data associated with the item, a single row collection. So what will happen is, as Arun, you were asking how to get the data. So from here in this collection, that data will come. So we'll get the one row at a time, get the next item. So next item means for the first time, the first row is the next item. It will come from this collection, and it will be stored in a single row collection. So let's create this collection, for example, queue collection. Okay, let's create this collection. And we are going to assign one item ID to everything. So we are not assigning it. Blue Prism is doing that for us. So basically this is in the output. So let's create this as well, item ID, and input we have. So now that I have changed it here, let me close this because initially the output were also there. So I have changed it. Let me delete this and let's save this. Okay, let's go back to the queue once. Okay, as you can see here, okay, one more thing, there is something called refresh here. So every time you make some changes and the changes are not reflecting, you can go ahead and refresh. Click here on the top right and refresh it here. As you can see here, even though I refresh it, all of the queue are still in pending status. So just understand, until all of these rows are either completed or exception, this will be in the pending status forever. Okay, even if I close this and switch on this computer tomorrow, this will be in the pending status. Okay, so what we need is I'm going to I could have done it here only, but the thing is that my Excel sheet had some wrong data, so I deleted the output data and I'm going to process it again. But if I run it again, this will also be picked up from the queue because these are in pending state. My new data will be added to the queue, but this will also be picked up, so we'll get some wrong data. So we have to remove this, we have to delete this. And you cannot delete queue in a pending state. You cannot delete that because Blue Prism doesn't allow you to do that. So if you right click, and as you can see, the delete worked cases from selection is disabled. You cannot delete anything without processing them. If it is failure, then that is fine, but at least execute them. So what we'll do is that we'll manually mark all these as exception. Right click, mark selected cases with exception, and for example, manually making exception. This I'm doing only to delete this, nothing else. Okay, as you can see, this is the exception status. This is what I was talking about, the second status, exception. This is how the exception will look like. Okay, so it will give you a flag icon if it is an exception. So select it and delete now everything. Now we'll be able to delete everything. You got it right, how to delete, because you won't be able to delete it in the pending state. Right click, delete. Okay, everything got deleted. Now we do not have anything in the June queue. You can refresh this. Okay, nothing we have. Now let's go ahead and run this. So what I will do is that, so I'll be having a lot of data item now, so it's difficult to manage everything. We'll move this part to Okay, get next item and then this one. So what I will do, I need this one and this one in a priority. These things are not much needed. Okay, so let's run this now. Let me connect this. So adding to the queue, you understand, and the getting the next item. So let's connect this also. Now let's run it. The error is due to the missing link. That is absolutely fine. I'm going to close this, reset and run. Okay, it got completed. So what we'll do is that let's take the queue now. Let's check the queue now. What is happening? This is the error due to this missing link. So let's go to the queue now. Job queue. Let's refresh this, and I got all this data. Okay, I got all this data, and this is fine. Previously also I got all the data, but you see the lock button here. Okay, you see the lock button. Okay, so there is another status. We can say locked. After pending, it will move to locked. After that, the decision. So the first item is locked here. Why? Because Blue Prism has picked up this item for processing. Okay, so the Blue Prism will pick up one item at a time and process that, and that item will be locked, and you cannot do anything when that item is locked. So this is the first item, the first row in the Excel sheet, and it is currently locked by Blue Prism for processing. So let's check, go here and let's see what is happening. As you can see here, I got an item ID. So this is the randomly generated item ID, and this item ID is for that first row only. This is the item ID that is generated by Blue Prism dynamically, and this queue collection, as you can see, it picked up the first data AUD and 15. Obviously, we have not processed it, so we don't have the INR. That is absolutely fine, but it has picked up the first data AUD and 15. We don't have any data here AUD 15, but automatically Blue Prism knows that the first row, this is a first in first out basis, and it has picked up the first row from the work queue, and it has got the AUD and 15, and it has also assigned one item ID. Okay, now the next thing that we are going to do is, any doubts here, guys? And anything, let me know, because this is a complex concept. The work queue is a complex concept. So if you are not able to understand anything, or if I want to I can go over again anything that you want. Okay, so if everything is fine, then that's good. So what we'll do is that now that we have got the data from the from the work queue, what we'll do is that previously what we are doing, we were taking all the data from the currency collection, and here in this page you can see here all the data where the currency dot amount, these are from the currency collection. Okay, everything is from the currency collection. So now all this data will not be from the currency collection, because we are not going to process them in the currency collection. Okay, what we are going to do is we are going to process them from the queue collection. So what will happen is, from the queue collection, whatever data is getting populated, this is the latest data that has got populated. So we are going to pick up the data from here, and we are going to process this instead of the data that got generated in the collection, in the get worksheet collection. That collection we are not going to process, because that collection we are taking all the data to the work queue, and from the work queue we are picking up one row at a time, and then we are processing it, right? So what I will do is that I will make the currency collection to be available in a single page only. Double click, and we will hide this other pages. It is not necessary, but I do not want this to be now available to other pages, because I'm not going to pick up data from currency collection now. So like check this, hide from the other pages, click OK here. And now what I will do is that because I will take data from queue collection, I will make the queue collection available to other pages, right? The hide from other pages in the process. So I'll make available, I'll make this available. Hide from other pages. I'll just uncheck that, and now this collection is available to other pages. Now I'll go here and change the everything currency dot amount. So I will take the queue collection dot amount and all. Okay, so that is something I'm going to do. This is one of the way. Alternatively, what you can do is that instead of doing this hiding and showing, you can also pass the data from here. Okay, you can also, I'm not going to do that, but I'm just telling you that you have the option. So in the start stage, you can add two rows. One is for what is that? First one is the amount, enter amount. Second is the from currency. Okay, you can receive to input and amount and from currency, and you can pass back the converted value. Okay, you can pass it back from here, and you can process it here. But now we are not doing that. We are simply just hiding and showing multiple data item collection here and using it here. So now that this is available, so what I will do is that I'll go here, and instead of currency, I'll just use the queue collection dot amount. Okay, and also in the from collection, instead of currency dot currency, I'll use the queue collection dot currency. Two values should be a static value of INR. That is fine. Click convert, and the read result in the output, I am also going to write it back to the queue collection dot INR. Okay, so this is what we are going to do. Okay, now reset it, and let's see. Okay, missing link is fine. Missing link is absolutely fine. Now we are processing the data from there. We are processing the data. We'll start processing the data from the queue collection, the single row collection that we are getting. So now we need to figure out how we can like store all this data, because as you can see here, this is a single row collection. The data got removed because I reset it. Okay, that is fine. So as you can see, as you previously saw, that is a single row collection. So each row from the work queue will come and will be stored there. Okay, so what will happen if a second row comes, because this is a single row collection and this will contain one row only. If you double click, as you can see, the single row here, this is disabled. It means that this is a single row collection. We cannot make it a multiple row collection also. Okay, we cannot make it a multiple. As you can see, in the initial value, I do not have option to add multiple row. Normally, if you drag and drop a collection, double click, you can, if you add a field here, some field, and basically you can add multiple rows here, right? We cannot add multiple rows here, and we should not add multiple rows here, because it is a single row collection, and one row from work queue will come and reside here. Okay, it will not be. Just give me 1 minute, guys. Just give me a minute. Okay, so yeah, it will be single collection. So what will happen is, every time this runs, every 10:45. Give me 1 minute. Okay, so yeah, this is the single row collection, and every time this get next item done, so the job of the get next item is to, it will get the next item. It will get the next item. So the first item it got, it wrote in the queue data collection. Now the second item it gets, it will again write it back. So what about the first one? Where should we store the first one? We lose the first one this way, right? And again, when the third one comes, we lose the second one because it will just overwrite the second one here. So what we need is a data storage. And before it gets the next item, we need to store, that, somewhere. We need to store that somewhere, right? So we need to, store that in a multi-row collection. We need to store each of the row in a multiple row collection before, we overwrite this queue collection. Before we overwrite this, we need to store whatever data there to the main collection, and then you can overwrite it. Okay. So for that, let me just save it. And I guess I have already, you people have already done it. If not, go to new, go to file and import the collection manipulation VBO. So this VBO, collection manipulation. If you have not imported it yet, just import it, okay? Because that is something I'm going to use, because we're going to work upon the collection. These are all about collection manipulation. So just import that. I'm not going to override. I have already done that. So I'm going to cancel. So just, don't forget to do that. Otherwise, that option that I'm going to select now, that will not be available for you. Okay. So cancel. And drag and drop one new action stage here. Okay. Double click on that and select utility collection manipulation. Okay. Utility collection manipulation, and there is something called append rows to collection. So here what we'll do, we'll append all the rows from this collection to a main collection. Okay. So before this, let's do one thing. Let's create a main collection. So let's drag and drop this. For example, let's make it as output collection, because this is where will be, everything will be stored, output collection. Okay, that's it. And now double click this one. Okay, where are the, okay, let's select it again, collection manipulation, and then add rows to collection. Now this one with the main collection and then collection to append. So main collection will be, which collection you want to append to. So if you see here, the collection to append to. So this is the destination collection. So we want to append to the output collection, and this is the from collection, collection to append, like which collection you want to append. Okay. So the collection to append. So this will be the queue collection. This is the single row collection. So from here, it will be appended. All the data will be appended, and it will go here. Okay. Now, if let's see what is in the output. Let's name it as append rows to collection. And then in the output, we have something called as combined collection. So if you, because these two are going to be combined. So from the queue collection, everything is going to be in output collection. Now, if you combine these two collection, and it will form a large collection, but we don't want to form a new collection for that, because we have already created the output collection to store everything. So we are also going to use the output collection as combined collection. This is the combined collection. So basically, whatever you take from here, you append it here, and then if you are planning to store it in a separate collection, but we are only going to store that in the same collection, because otherwise it will be too much of collections. Okay, obviously you can do that, but it's of no use. Okay, any doubts here till this point? Please let me know if you want to understand anything. Otherwise, it's fine. Okay. So now that we are writing everything to the output collection, and the output collection will contain everything. The output collection will contain the output value. This is the output collection. So we are also going to change the write collection here. previously we were reading and writing the same currency collection, but we are no more going to write to the from the currency collection. Instead of currency collection, we are going to take the output from the output collection. And obviously, this is not populated now. We are going to do a lot of work on this, but the collection from which we are going to write to the Excel sheet will be the output collection. Okay, so I'm just removing the currency from there and using the output collection. Okay, understood this part, right? We are changing the right collection, whatever we are taking the input as we are changing that. Okay. So now one more thing is that how shall we know till what point we are going to get the next item that we have? Then how shall we go about checking that the work queue has a next item or not? Okay, how shall we go on and check that? This part that we have, right? Let's move it here. So we are appending rows to collection and we are getting the next item here. So the problem arises here that till what point we are going to get next item and till what point we are going to append the rows to the collection. Okay, the answer is till all the rows are finished. So we need to find a way to check if all the rows from the work queue are finished execution, and that time we don't have to do a get next item. Otherwise it will go in infinite loop if you do a get next item, or it will throw you an error that next item does not exist. Okay, so we need to find a way to check if the get next item is there or not. So basically, as I told before, if item ID has some value, then next item is there. If item ID is empty, it means that next item is not there. So for all the row, you'll be getting some item ID. If the row is not there, the item ID will be blank for the empty rows. So no need to check there. Okay. So let's do this. After get next item, we are going to check if the next if the item ID is blank or not. Okay, that is when if the item ID, so this is what we are going to do now. Get next item, first step. If item ID is not blank, if there is a value in the item ID, then go ahead and check in the currency converter. If there is a value in the item ID, that means the row exists and we are going to perform this for them. We are going to perform this. Okay. After we perform this, then we are going to append row to the collection. Why? Because we need to store in the output collection before it overwrites it. Okay, before it overwrites this collection, we need to store it here. Again, we are going to check if item ID is there. If it is there, then do the same thing. If item ID is not there, it means that it has completed execution of everything. Just go ahead and write it to the collection. That is what we are going to do now. Understood what we are going to do? Any doubts here? Please let me know. Fine? Okay. So I'm just going to delete this link.
Yeah. So Prem, you'll be uploading this recording today after this?
Yes, not after this, but I'll upload at around 2 o'clock.
Okay. Because it's little confusing once I go back and again do it. I mean, for myself, I'm speaking right now. Is that confusing? So once I go back and go and see it, if I have any doubts, I'll come back to you. That's the reason I asked.
Okay, sure, no problem. Okay. So first thing, we'll connect this. We'll find places where this will be connected, the append row to collection and currency converter, the page that we are talking about. First thing, let's check if item ID is blank or not. That is the the second step. So get next item. If item ID is blank, then write it to collection. It means we have completed everything. If item ID is not blank, go ahead and do the processing in the page. So what I will do is that this item ID, I'm going to check using a decision stage. I'll take a decision stage here and decision stage. And then what I will check here is that we already have the item ID. item ID. Then we'll check if item ID is blank or not. So how to check if item ID equals to or not equals to blank. If item ID is not equal to blank, then some value is there. Like if some value is there, then let me name it item ID not empty. If item ID is not empty, we are just checking this condition. If that is not empty, then we are going to get next item. If item ID is not empty, then go ahead and process it. Okay, go ahead and process it in the page. If item ID is empty, then write to the collection. This part you are able to understand. If item ID is not empty, then we are going to process because there are some value. If item ID is empty, it means there is no value. We have completed everything. 1, 2, 3, 4. After completing 4 only, item ID will be blank. That time we can go ahead and write it to the collection. Okay. Now, after we complete converting that going to the currency converter page, we need to append it to the collection, right? So here we'll connect this and we'll connect this. This is the loop that is going to happen. So let me reiterate over everything once more. What we are doing here, getting everything to the currency collection. So this collection is getting populated. After that, launch the application, adding everything to the queue from where? From the currency collection. So double click, taking it from the currency collection, putting it in the June queue by using add to queue. I have added everything to the queue. Now I'm getting that one item at a time. Okay, how to do that? Using get next. Okay, using get next item. So I picked up the first item. As you can see here, the first item is picked up by Blue Prism for processing. If I refresh it also, okay, due to some reason it is exception. We must have run something here and there. At cleanup, okay, we'll talk about this, what is cleanup and all. Anyway, so I picked the first item. So the first item will be in the log state. That log was coming, right? That will come in the log state. Now, the log came here and the get next item, the log came, and then I'm checking if once this page is completed, this too will be populated. If it is executed this stage, this too will be populated. So queue collection will pick up the amount and from currency and item ID with a random value. Now I'll check if item ID is empty. The item ID is, so I'm checking if item ID is blank here. Okay, if item ID is blank, no, I'm checking item ID is not blank here. So no, item ID is not blank, then I am just processing that. Okay, what I'm doing here, if item ID is not blank, it means that I have some value. So what I'm doing, I'm going to this page, and from here I am taking the queue collection dot amount and then queue collection dot currency, the from currency, this is the static value, and then reading the result and storing in queue collection dot INR. So once this part is done, I have the queue collection populated with the INR value also. Once that is done, I am writing all the data from the queue collection to the output collection by using this one. Take from queue collection, write it in the output collection, store it in the output collection. Now output collection has one row. Okay. Now again, it is going to get the next item. So again, what is it going to do? Take the second item, put a lock on this because this will be processed now. Item ID not empty, so item ID has a value. So we'll go here, do the same thing here, and then append all the data from the queue collection to the output collection. So in the output collection, second row will be populated, right? And because this will be overridden with the new value, second row here. Like that, this will contain the third row, and it will insert a third row here, and again fourth row. And when fourth row gets completed, like that time when executing the fifth row, item ID will be blank. So item ID not equal to blank will be false because item ID equal to empty, and that time it will go and write to the collection. Okay, this is the logic. Any question here, guys? Please let me know, because I know that this is confusing. This is very confusing for the first time. It takes some time for you to understand. So if you want to understand anything here, you can let me know. Okay, so let's do one thing. Okay, again, why this become a flag? Because if there is something in log stage, and if there is something in log stage, Blue Prism doesn't, there is no way Blue Prism knows it is completed or it is exception. Okay, so you have to manually mark those as exception and completed. We'll talk about that. There is a feature like this. Let me just show you in the work queue something called mark completed. If it is successful, you have to mark it completed. If it is exception, you have to mark it as exception. If you are not doing this, then Blue Prism will mark that as an exception during cleanup. You see the message: automatically set exception at cleanup. This was a part of cleanup activity done by Blue Prism at this time, and this is the reason: automatically set exception at cleanup. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's delete everything, because okay, so we have to mark this exception and then delete it. Okay, now I'm just going to run everything. So let me put a breakpoint somewhere so that I can show you, how exactly that happens. Let me put a breakpoint somewhere. So what I will do after getting the next item, let's put a breakpoint here. Okay. Step over. We'll do one at a time. Step over. Again, step over. Get next item, because we have put a breakpoint. Nothing has happened yet. It will only pick up the data for. Okay, we can go back and check the queue, because we have already added to the queue. 4 data came here, but nothing has been picked up for processing. So all are in pending state. Now I will get the next item. So I'm just going to process this. It is not processed yet, this state. So step over. Now let's refresh the queue. As you can see, the first one is locked because I got the next item. Blue Prism picked up the first item for processing. So this got locked. Okay, this case was locked at this particular time. Now it will be processed by Blue Prism. So step over. Item ID is not blank, obviously, because item ID has this value, this large randomly generated value. And this queue collection has a current value of AUD and 15. You clearly know where it is coming from, right? This is coming from the currency collection, and currency collection is coming from the Excel sheet. So it is picking up the first row, AUD and 15, out of all this data. You got the flow here. So we are picking up the first item in the get next item. So it is connected with AUD and 15. Now we are going to convert to INR. Okay, so let's go through this stage. Step over. Okay, now let's double click the queue collection. Current value, as you can see, this value got populated. Initially, before this was empty. Why this got populated? Because this got executed, currency to convert to INR. What happened there? It took the entire amount from queue collection.amount, the value it took from there, and it populated queue collection.inr. Okay, queue collection.inr. From there only, this came from this value, queue collection.inr. Okay, now I'm going to append rows to collection. If I do this, what will happen? The output collection that is empty, this will be populated with one row. Which row? This particular row. This particular whole row is going to be copied here. Okay, so I'm going to step over. As you can see, output collection has row 1 of 1. So double click. Initially it was empty. Now it got populated with this value. And we are going to get the next item now. So let's refresh. It is still in the log state because we have not gone to the next item, right? Now I'm going to get the next item again. But anyway, till this point, any doubt for the first iteration that we did? Any doubts here? How it picked up the first data, how it processed, how everything happened? The first iteration. Everyone understood that? Okay. So let's go to the, let's do a step over. Okay, so it picked up the second item. Let's go back to the work queue, refresh. As you can see, it picked up the second item, but the first item is still locked. Why? Because Blue Prism doesn't know if it is completed or not completed. Okay, that is something we have to tell Blue Prism. That is the reason I was showing you that there is an option called mark completed or mark exception, and that I was telling you. Okay, so we need to tell Blue Prism it is completed or not. So anyway, you can run it again, run it again, and run this again. So as you can see here, I got second row in output collection. This converted value. This value are same. Ideally, this should not be same. There is a reason it came same. This is an error. I'll tell you why it came same. Because 15 AUD, the INR value is different from 50 USD. Okay, this is same due to. It's not a mistake, I would say. This is some you have to improve the performance. So in the work queue, everything is happening so fast. In the work queue, it happens so fast that fast, due to that reason only, this error we are getting. So I'll tell you how to remove that error. So in it, see, these two values are same. So Blue Prism, what is happening? The error here is that before this value gets populated for the 50 USD, there was some value here before, right? This 750 was there before. For the first iteration, we converted 15 AUD to 762. So this value was there before here. Now, work queue is very fast. Okay, so when we converted 50 USD to INR, it took some time for this value to be populated. But as there was some value here already, what Blue Prism does is it picks up that value only. This feed is same for all the converted value. So it picks up the old value only. So that is the reason it is coming. So you can try this to resolve this. You can try at home how to resolve it. Otherwise, I'll tell you in the next class how to remove this error. So basically what you can do is that you can check if this value and this value are same, then only pick this up. Okay, otherwise sometimes it will pick out the old value from here. That is wrong. So if we are validating if this value and this value are same, then we are never going to pick up the old value. We are always going to pick up the current value. Initially what is happening, even if there is a 50 here, it is taking the 15 AUD value. So that case, this condition will fail. Okay. Anyway, so this is a separate part. You can try it at home. Why this same is coming till now? Everything was fine. You can try this. This is not related to work queue. This is something you can do with the web automation condition only. You can take a condition and check if this and this are same, then only pick this. Okay, so again it took the second row and it got to the next item, and the work queue is refreshed with the third item being locked, and step over again, fourth item. Now step over again. Now the fourth item will be locked for picking up. Locked. Now it will process that. Breakpoint reached. Now if we do a step over, now get next item is item ID is blank because there is no next item to be picked up from here. Everything is completed. So fifth row is not there. So item ID is blank. Now this condition will fail. Item ID blank, and it will go and write to the collection. It will write to the collection. What it will take? It will take the output collection. Okay, the output collection that we have, and in the output collection we have all the value. Okay, we have some wrong value in the second row. That is fine. We'll you can either research over it or I can talk in the next lecture. So all this value it is doing in the right collection. Step over, close the workbook, and end the process. Okay, now reset and go back to the Excel sheet. It is picking up the same data. The whatever we have in the output collection, it's written here. Okay, so that's how the work queue works. Okay, so again, we have a lot of stuff to do. So what are the benefits? This is the same thing we are doing before, right? So what benefit we are getting by adding an extra layer of work queue? Previously also we were writing from the currency collection and we are getting the same result. What benefit we are getting if when we are doing the work queue? So till now we have not discussed about the actual work queue benefits. We are just trying to read the data. We have not done any actual work queue related stuff. Okay, so those are the stuffs we are going to discuss. And also mark complete and mark exception, because now everything is in the log state. Everything is in the log stage, which is wrong. So we are going to discuss about mark completed and mark exception. Everything we are going to discuss. So any doubts here, guys? Please let me know. Actually, I am planning to stop it from here. I have some work. Actually, there is a new batch starting up. So there is another instructor. So I just need to, they're going to start at 11. So I just need to do a small catch up with them. So I'm planning to stop now only. So please we can continue from, wherever we are left here today, from mark completed, mark exception, and the further about work queue we are going to discuss in the next class. So if you have any questions, then please let me know.
Not at this point, Prem. Just upload the video. I mean, if you can do it today afternoon, it'll be helpful.
Yeah, sure. I'll upload the video and I'll upload these workflows as well. So you guys can import and start looking into this.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If you do not have any doubts, then we can stop it here. Okay then. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for joining. I'm going to provide all this to you in the Google Drive around 2 o'clock, before lunch, or after that maybe I'm going to upload that and I'll notify in the WhatsApp group. Okay. See you in the next class then. Okay. Anything? Yeah, Jitu, tell me. No, Jitu, you are not audible. That's what I'm thinking. Why you are not, asking anything or something. Share your screen. Can we do this around 11:30 to 12:30? Then around 1 o'clock, Jitu. If you have any doubts, then we can do it at around. Yeah. Okay, let's do it around 1 o'clock. Or if I go for some, otherwise I'll ping you. Okay, around that I'll ping you around that time. Data doesn't change. Okay, we'll see that. Yeah. Bye, man. Thanks, everyone. Bye.